Recording is on.
Okay, hello everyone. Nice to meet you. And today we are having a great guest, Leonardo, who is a PhD in mathematics and who is now working as a scientific software developer at Alten Nederland in Rotterdam. So I'm very pleased to have you, Leonardo. And today, thank you for accepting the invitation. And today we will talk about your career path and where you are now, and about your great future. So, first of all, please tell us a little bit about your background. So, what is Italian guy doing in the Netherlands? How it came about that you arrived at the Dutch soil, and and about your background and about your PhD, and what brought you here to the job of software developer.
Okay, so the first thing is I never had any doubts about mathematics itself, because it was the one thing I was kind of good at, one thing interested me. So after high school, I went straight to the university. I was super smooth, let's say, I have to say. Very happy that I'd found something that worked. Towards the end of the master, I had actually many friends that were also doing very well, academically speaking. And they were all going for PhDs, mostly in UK, and in general, most of them abroad in Europe, a few also in US. And since I didn't really know what to do after master, and I thought, okay, maybe I can keep doing the same. I just get paid, let's say. So I decided also to start looking for PhD positions for doctorates. And also, I started looking at the beginning for abroad. Because in Italy, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and the time to get into PhDs is quite late. So if you don't get one by then in Italy, you're kind of screwed for the whole year. So not very wise. So I started looking in countries where one could just get by with English. And in Europe, well, the first one that comes to mind, obviously, is England, United Kingdom. However, I didn't really find good opportunities over there, even at the universities where my friends were staying. And then I started thinking that, well, in Europe, there are also other countries where the English is widespread. And maybe they also have things like Euro, metric system, reasonable driving sites. So I started looking into Denmark, then the Netherlands, and so. In the Netherlands, I found that Leiden actually had a really great research track record, let's say. And eventually I actually got two offers from Leiden University. And I ended up accepting one of them. So I was really happy about it. Everything was really smooth, worked smoothly, and so. After that, well, I just joined. I started in September 2014, and the research group was in dynamical systems and mathematical modeling. So quite interesting. So it's commonly known as as applied part of mathematics, although what I was dealing with was the theoretical part. So making new theory, and actually using also quite a lot of numerical simulations with MATLAB in the last years. So ideally, I had some sort of mixed background. Let's say I could do theory, could develop theory, but I could also do applied mathematics, let's say. So I guess that this is quite a good advantage I had over some other, let's say, strictly speaking, colleagues that can come from more theoretical backgrounds. Although in general, a mathematician is mathematician, so any employer will not understand or be interested in what you do. They just know you can do some sort of black magic. So that's it.
Actually, I also have a master title in mathematics, but I always felt that for me, applied mathematics is so much easier than theoretical, like mathematics, fundamental mathematics. So I didn't really feel strong enough to develop new theorems and prove new theorems. Like I thought this is like even harder, and it was so abstract sometimes, especially some some branches of mathematics, like functional mathematics,
Mhm.
functional analysis, and what else? Group theory, like
Oh,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I was losing the coordinates, I was losing myself completely. Like I
Yeah.
needed coordinates. So so like classical analysis was fine and probability calculus was fine for some reason. Like I liked it, but some parts of it I barely passed,
Mhm.
and I never felt that I'm good enough to be like this like fundamental mathematician that basically
Mhm.
proving new theorems. So if you can do that, then I think it's just so much harder than applied mathematics. I think if you're if you can prove theorems, you can also do applied mathematics. But if you do applied mathematics, I don't think you can easily switch back. So I think what I want to say is that I think what you do is harder than what
Well,
most.
also applied mathematics has theorems in probability and medium, yeah, dynamical systems and so different types. Yes, they will not be as abstract as,
Yeah,
but it's still valid mathematics, and they're often more powerful, more useful than
thank you.
memorized. So there's no
Um,
proving that a certain model behaves the way it behaves is also a theorem. So it's a rule you discover, and that's it.
right.
Um,
Um, okay, so that was your PhD, and can you tell us like very briefly what is the main finding of your PhD or some topic?
so yeah, so basically what I've been investigating is so there are mathematical functions called traveling waves that are basically these functions. So they are solution to differential equations.
Mhm.
So these functions, they describe how, in particular, a certain, they describe the way a profile, some profile moves in space and time, the changes in space and time. In the case of traveling waves, what they see is that they travel, so they keep the same shape, but they just shift in time. So that's why, as if it was a kind of a wave in the sea or something like that. So what I was studying was this kind of waves on, let's say a surface. But I was mentioning in the introduction, in the stadium. Why the stadium? Because it's made. You can really see that it's made of single people, single elements. They all combine and cooperate and respond to the stimuli from the neighbors. Usually, in my case, only the four neighbors, in most immediate neighbors, but they still behave coherently, and they create a pattern. So you can see that a local coordination, local cooperation can bring to global patterns, global events. So I was studying exactly on this kind of discrete, so point-wise, locally connected surfaces, the way that these waves travel. And in particular, if we have, for example, a wave that is not only is not perfectly straight, for example, as a wedge or a corner,
Mhm.
and how does it travel with what's the speed depending on the defect, so on the angle. Does it change speed? Does it change direction? Can it exist for every direction or only some special ones? This was actually my first project that was supposed to be a simple 6 months warm up, and took the full first 3 years. So it was really a huge struggle. I really suffered a lot, and at some point I was basically crying in my supervisor office because it was a full semester thrown in the garbage. It was really all hard at some point. Then, luckily, the fourth year we had three papers published with some collaborators. It was super fun. Lots of MATLAB, but lots of colorful programming. So that was much more enjoyable. But yeah, the 3 years of really hard theory and technicalities were really harsh. During the time also is when I decided that I would not continue with academia. I don't think it was necessarily because this I was slamming my head on this project too much, but I think more because I was seeing a lot of presentations of professors and people that had built a career in academia, and their presentations were, okay, I made this toy model, and it works the way I want it to work, and yeah, academia give me money to keep working on my toy. And I found that obviously most of these models had meanings, but I saw that sometimes it was just not really helpful, not even in a theoretical way. It was just people pulling some strings of a toy and then claiming it was important. So I didn't
Yeah.
really see value in this
Yeah,
part.
this is also, I think, a big problem in mathematics. That very often there is some solution, let's say some nice dynamical system that has interesting properties, and then people basically try to find experiment or find some application where this model fits and explains something. So instead of starting with a problem that they try to model, and they try to model like a phenomenon happening in nature, instead they basically take a model and just try to come up like what these variables can stand for, and just try to squeeze this model into applications. And I see it often. Like, I still keep in touch with my former colleagues from Faculty of Mathematics in Warsaw, and I see that some of the people, they just have one specialty, which is basically one type of models, and the whole literature, like their whole like scientific achievement is basically to squeezing this model into as many applications as possible, and they kind of mold the same model in 50 different aspects and the 50 different contexts, and
Yeah.
just produce publications, just changing a few parameters every time. But like this is the modus operandi, and they just they spend their whole career doing one and the same model, and they just change the rhetorics every time.
Yeah, yeah, and personally, I find it some sort of malpractice. So
Yeah,
finding my malpractice in mathematics is really harsh because can't really make up data, can't really. It's not that easy to cheat in a mathematics paper, but yeah, regarding the content, I find it sometimes is just bogus.
true.
So yeah, that got me really disillusioned about pursuing a career in academia.
And actually, I have a question, because for myself, it also worked in this way. Because from what you were saying, I see that for the first 3 years, like, you had really frustrating, hard project, and then you took a decision to leave academia, and then at some point, projects started working for you, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I had the same. So ever since I stopped really thinking about scientific career, like, I publish much more than I used to before. And I'm thinking maybe this is true more in general, that sometimes like we are just too determined and don't think about plan B and other options, and sometimes just maybe getting more distance and being more relaxed about it helps, which is hard, of course.
Yeah, but surely taking a breath, taking a step back and a big breath really helps also for, let's say, creativity or productivity. So I guess also the moment you decide, okay, this is not going to be my career forever, then you can be a bit more relaxed, but also to put the effort, the more effort you put now, the less time you will have to spend tomorrow. So in some sense, that also can help.
Okay, and before I ask you about your current job, like because I'm very worried that I will forget this question, so I want to ask you now. What do you think about the Italian cuisine in the Netherlands?
So I have to say, one of the biggest accomplishment I had in the Netherlands was actually learning how to cook. Well, before coming here, I was living with my family, so I wasn't really I didn't really need to learn how to provide for myself, let's say. But I have to say that yeah, it's questionable. But I guess in general that cooking the kitchen in the food in the Netherlands is well, it has its appeal, but not really maybe my appeal. But there are plenty of actually I think there are many more Italian restaurants than Dutch restaurants. So I
Yeah,
actually found for any dish I can think of, I know a good restaurant or two. where to go when I have the cravings.
Yeah, I was just curious because I heard some opinions, about pizza in the Netherlands. That it's a profanation of pizza, and
I've seen
some.
worse. I've seen pizza in Brazil can be worse, for example.
Okay.
But yeah, in general, you have.
I tried a pizza in Florence when I was there, and this pizza was really simple, but was really delicious. It's really in the main market in the center of the city. Well, really great. It's not comparable with the pizzas here in Brazil.
Okay. I just wanted to know because some Italian people I asked this question are quite rough.
There are good places. Also, many Italian cuisine places are owned by Italians, so there is a good knowledge exchange. Every time you know an Italian, you know the good place where to find this or that. And in general, also we can really spot which menus have been written by Italians, which not. So that's also a good indicator. The amount of spelling mistakes. It's a good predictor for the quality of the food.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to your career.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we know more about your PhD story. So you already knew since your third year, right? That you want
second, third year.
So once you took that decision, what steps did you take next?
Well, at the beginning, none, because my whole future was planning. This research, this project, that project. So I was still everything at the moment was just about, let's say, making it to the next day, and so I was still pretty much only research oriented. I thought, okay, the earlier I finish research, the earlier I can think of finding a job. So I always try to take things one at a time. So first I finish my research PhD, and then I will start looking for a job earlier, but I will start working if it's possible after I'm done with other things. So I didn't really want to. But indeed, perhaps I should have started thinking earlier. So once I made up the decision, I should have started thinking more seriously about what I would like to do after research. So I did once in my first year. Actually, I went to mathematics with industries. It was some kind of workshop that happens every year. But I didn't really have great experience over there. So maybe it was this one project, this 1 year. So I think it's valuable. It was a valuable experience for many people. I think most scientific, most beta sciences. So the scientific sciences in the Netherlands have these yearly events. I know there are some for chemistry, from computer science, and from physics as well. And I would recommend to also just to know about companies, to know a bit about industry works. So anyhow, I started then in my third or fourth year going to some job fairs, mostly at the university. And eventually in the fourth year, I also took a couple of courses offered by the university about what to do after. So they were called motivation skills for PhDs. I don't remember. One was the job interviews, and the other was something like motivation for PhD, something. Basically, they one of them was focused on how to find what you like, because it was my case. It was also a case of many other people. We've been so focused and close in our search. We took 5 minutes to decide, okay, what I actually like. So in academia, say, okay, I'm interested in these topics. No, this is the topics. Most of the topics is the ones you understand. You get by, but what you actually like, what you appreciate, what gets you going. So that was after 3 years in the 4 years almost into the PhD. I felt like I was completely empty and I didn't like. I really didn't have passion much for things outside of academia. So it was took me some time. So
Yeah, that's actually very important that you're saying, because indeed, in graduate school, most people are so overworked that, when you're so overworked and sleep deprived, then your intuition no longer works properly. It has to have some, rested mind to feed on.
Yeah.
It's like you can't really listen to your gut and have insight in yourself. And it's true, totally true, that actually there are two problems at the end of PhD. One problem is that you don't know enough about the job market, you don't know what is out there, what are the options. But second problem is that you don't know enough about yourself, because
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the same skills you can go to many different environments on the job market, and with the same skills you might be very happy in a startup and very unhappy in a corporation, or vice versa. Or maybe you should create your own company. Like, you should know what is your personality also, and what is your what do you enjoy indeed. So actually that's also what we do, like what I do in the company, Welcome Solution. So in the courses that we do, we kind of combine both. So it's 50-50, like self-discovery exercise combined with like lectures about the job market, because
Yeah.
I think you cannot do one without the other indeed. But anyways, great that you did these courses. So from what you're saying, this helped you, right?
Yeah. So I took them in my fourth year, and I have to say it took me also a few months after taking these courses to actually start feeling, having positive feelings about careers and job openings and companies. So I would say that doing this in the fourth year, maybe it might be already a bit late, fourth, or it meant as last year. So that was, they really helped me. So really started thinking about, okay, what do I want to do? What do I like? Okay, technology, community working, like actually helping in, could have been NGOs. At some point, I had a look throughout all the NGOs in the region. But even then, me, a mathematician that only knows how to do mathematical research, or so I thought. What can I offer to this, to European organizations, for example? There's plenty in the Netherlands and in general in Europe, or United Nations organizations. Surely they could use somebody with this specific talent, not mine, but a PhD talent, how to talk to these people, how to approach them. So that's something that I really found unsolvable. So I figured out, okay, maybe looking for the perfect job, the perfect position as first at the first shot it's a bit too it would be too easy. Let's say if it was that easy, then I'm sure it wouldn't be. I could do better. Let's say. So I figured out, okay, I can take a few years to actually get what the market was asking. Let's say what I was lacking the most. So how to learning how to talk to people in companies or in general, also actual team working. So even if you had collaborations, they are nothing like working in a company, a team. Since a couple of months, I've been working with this agile structure, where I have very daily meetings. I think one of the other, it was mentioned already a couple of weeks ago in one of those another talk, and it's really quick feedback, and in after a couple of weeks you start getting really into the gears, and you start working, you start discussing, you learn from people every day, you teach people every day. It's really a complete different pace than what is academia. So that was I thought at the beginning, okay, I can never learn in you tell me in 2 weeks I have to be ready for this project, to work, to be a active member of the team. I cannot do it in 2 weeks. It will take me 4 months and 5 books to read. Slowly, and instead, slowly but steady. First, I started doing some paired coding with a colleague, a bit more experience. So it was showing the screen online. Also, there was no problem working from my home. And he was telling me, okay, it was C++ programming that I'm working on now mostly. And okay, this is a class. So I had some courses from my company that they provide. So that was a really nice program from Alten. And well, even after that, I still had no clue about what was the professional level. I was extremely scared of this. So it will take me months, and you have to give me intensive courses because I don't know what's a professional. What can do? And now I see it after 2 months that some professionals have been writing awful code with no documentation, with no pieces that have no reason of existing. An experienced member of our team just made something up, and there was a questionable idea because it was not really properly thought through, and we've been stuck on for months on this, and for some designs issues, let's say, compatibility. So I saw that professional does not to be scared of professional level, because professional just means you're paid for it. Doesn't always correlate, should, but does not always correlate to top quality. Also could be that you are professional but experienced in Python, and they're asking you to work in C++ or C#, and then you don't have a clear vision of how things work there. So you are a professional, but they can't expect from you deep knowledge on how you should structure a project in another language that is something outside of your field.
Right.
So,
Yeah, actually, my feeling is that professional in industry means to not to do things perfectly, but to have best quality to price ratio. So do as good product as possible in certain amount of time and given the resources, which doesn't mean perfect. So at least this is true for like startups in like startup phase. Maybe not as true for Google and these like developed companies where they really have to care about quality and special cases, special examples, because then they care about quality much more. But at least for like most small and middle-sized companies, actually to do as much as possible in as little time as possible is the most important. But also actually Maciej, who was the guest last week, he also worked for a few years in industry, and his view is that in industry it's important to indeed make a product work, and it's often the projects are simple, but you have to think about all the possible modes of failure. Whereas in academia, it's much more complex problems, but in case something goes wrong, you can always debug and just relaunch the project, so you don't have to care that much. I mean, you have to care, but it's also understandable. You're alone on the very complex project, so you can always overlook something. So in the worst case, you just have to correct. And
it can happen in a paper, can happen during the revision of the paper itself, or so. In a company, if you screw up big time, it means maybe hundreds of thousands of euros burnt, and there might be a big problem. But ideally, there are many stages, and things are controlled. So ideally, this kind of mistakes don't happen, because they could just bring failure on a whole company. But
right.
occasionally, it still happens. So that's.
Okay, so currently, how does your daily life look like? So do you have group projects? Do you have the Scrum scheme, or what's the working style?
So this project that I'm assigned for the moment is it indeed follows the Scrum development incremental development flow, let's say, which means that in our case every 2 weeks we have 2 weeks for us are a sprint. A sprint is a cycle of development. So at the beginning of the sprint, let's say usually on Mondays, we decide, okay, this next 2 weeks we are going to work on this kind of tasks, on this kind of tickets, and we more or less estimate the time needed, the resources needed, and yeah, people just kind of organize themselves. Okay, I will start doing this, I will start doing that, I can help you with this. It's a very vital component of this development plan is the daily meetings, happen once or twice per day, where people say, okay, I've been working on this, I will working on that, and maybe I've been having problems in this aspect of the development or the review or something. In that case, some other member can help, and so this makes so that there is a steady flow of, if not development, of at least learning, because then the person who's stuck will learn how to overcome the problem. There will be always something moving. They will not be left by themselves for 3 days, thinking only thinking and smashing their head on the keyboard, literally.
Right.
So
So how many people do you have in a team?
that is a few weeks. This is I'm currently in an idle project. So consultants that don't have a project in a company are usually, at least at Alten, they are assigned to these idle projects. That means that we have some projects by the company just to train a bit, just to keep us busy, or to share our knowledge with newer members, to help them out, to coach them sometimes. And this means that, well, it's kind of, the priority obviously is a bit lower on this project because they're only people with free time. At some point, we were 2 people in DALF 3 weeks ago. Now we are up to 10. So it fluctuates a lot. But I have to say now it's nice because there's actually people that's moving again. And there are also people with experience that are coaching us, that are, that are really, they're also learning. So working, and but also I've been learning a lot, so it's really nice. But yeah, it's kind of unstable in the project. Yes,
Okay,
regarding to Ilan's questions.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Okay, no, it's quite it's from now. Can you share some details about your role and your current company? Yeah. So I since February I've been working at Alten. It's a IT consultancy company, both software and hardware. It's worldwide, actually. As it also, I think it has some big offices in São Paulo, in Brazil, and yeah, also it's quite big. Also it's French originally, but it's all over the world. So I'm an IT consultant. More specifically, I've been hired as a scientific software developer due to my let's say specific knowledge about. Actually, during my university time, I took many courses on numerical analysis and also a bit of programming, not really the engineering part, so good practices and object-oriented and so on, but mostly just writing code. So I was mostly writing these godlike files that would do anything that would be really obscure, that I would do what they were doing, but nobody else. And that's also quite the common practice in academia, I have to say. There's not really, because you work on it, so you have to know what it does, and not many other people. Here it's different because there are many people working on them. Maybe they will have to modify them after 6 months, after 6 years. So you have to write things that are easily modifiable, updatable, and clear. So you have to write documentation and you have to test them. So that's things that usually you don't think about in academia, the software engineering part. And I was really new to it, but I really see the benefit of doing things that are well, in academia you have to say they have to be reproducible, and the same is here. So codes have to be understandable, clear. It must be possible to modify them in a clear way. So in some sense, they have to be, they cannot be obscure, like in academia, research cannot be obscure. So you have to publish, you have to make your data available, and conduct, everything must be clear. So in some sense, this is industry correspective of good practice in developing, whether it's research or just a product. I have to say, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I have. No, please continue.
Regarding my company, I'm really happy about it because it's really great quality, and they also hire many PhDs. So some more than 10%, I think. Now I don't really know because I haven't been to the office since 2 months, and before then I've been at the office only for barely 2 months. But they have up to some 20% of people with the PhDs,
Wow.
and along all levels. So I'm really happy that there are people that also managers, mentors that can really know what are your strengths, also your shortcomings. Let's say at least when you're new, so they know that you need some attention in some. They know how to speak to you. They know that they can talk about. They can tell this one word and you pick it up. They know, for example, I don't know if you did some numerical analysis, Natalia, right?
Yeah.
So if a manager came to you and asked you, is it possible to precondition this problem? Or what is the advantage of being able to choose between different numerical methods to solve this metrics? They know they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously would also know that then at the point you tell them that you know, so that you can see the value in what was being discussed.
Okay.
So that is something really nice. That's
so you mean that your manager is also an expert? So they are not these managers that only manage people, but they also know the subject.
Yeah, exactly, and they are interested in. They know, at least that's. Let's say I can speak about my experience in my office in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So I think I've been looking around. I've been reading about the company before accepting a job. So I see that at least in the Netherlands, there are very good reviews about it.
Okay.
And so there is this website Glassdoor, where you can see reviews for companies. And I guess there are everywhere, all over the world for many companies. And I saw that for my company, there were really only great reviews and about treating workers as people, valuing them as people, not just resources or workforce.
Okay, but it sounds to me like you were not naturalized yet, because when people spend a few months in a company, that's what I see from a lot of friends who are like former academics who now work in industry. Like they often start talking about we, so our product, our mission, our office, but like you didn't switch to that mode yet, so you still speak for yourself.
Well, I like to think, I know that when I'm working, especially when I'm at the intake interviews, I speak for the company, so I have to represent the company. But I also know that I am myself, so I always put myself and my well-being above my company, let's say, well-being. Obviously, I will also always act in a professional way. So I have respect, and I admire the policies of my company. But I am Leonardo, and I am my own stakeholder, let's say. So
Okay.
also for most of the time, the office has been my own house. So there's maybe not being. I talk daily to my colleagues. I like them and everything, but I always think that I am myself and I work for them. So yeah, we work together, me and the company. But well, they have a mission and I support the mission, but I am not that mission, at least yet, let's say.
Okay, and actually, I have a question about the way you are evaluated, because, like, when you work in a team of 10, is it that your whole team is evaluated for the overall performance, or you also individually get evaluated in some way?
Well, for the moment, there's not really much performance because there's not really, I mean, performance to be evaluated. Sorry, let's say, let me express a bit better. Or better, there is no evaluation on the performance. Since this is strictly speaking just an ongoing project, it's just for us to keep busy and keep learning and keep practicing. There are obviously, there are, if people are not being cooperative or so, they mostly try to deal, okay, it hasn't happened that people are not cooperative. There could be that there are some lacks, let's say, in knowledge or capabilities, can happen. People are just, they might just be new, I am new. So then we just, usually I think we just try to talk within the team, see if things, before bringing it up to management or so, we try to see if there's something we can do to come to a common solution. Or every day we ask if there are troubles within the project. If so, let's take 15 minutes after the meeting to talk about it. 15, half an hour, 1 hour, the whole day, as much as it takes. Sometimes we have days with 6 hours of meetings, for example, and it also counts as development, as a team, let's say team building, but taking off, let's say helping a colleague out of there's a slump, is it so? Yeah, it's also part of, it also helped the development of the project. So it doesn't matter that I didn't write code for 2 hours. What matters is that the team, it works well. So, and yeah.
Okay, and okay, I understand. And how did you actually get the job? So was there anything in the recruitment procedure that was surprising to you?
Well, quite a bit. So first of all, I got it through LinkedIn, through one of these. So I actually spent months and months writing cover letters and working a lot on LinkedIn. On Monster also, I had a lot of contents from the Monster website. And eventually, it was just a sort of open position on open application for an open position on LinkedIn. So I just sent the CV. I didn't even send a cover letter for them, which was quite, well, it's on certain was disappointing because all the effort, all the months spending and perfecting, finding the precise sentence to put at this precise paragraph in the precise, and then eventually I get a really good job offer without even writing one. I was, let's say, one less cover letter to write, but on the other hand, it felt a bit like, then I didn't need to, but actually it was very much needed. So I guess also, writing a lot, practicing a lot of job interviews and so actually helps, even if you don't pass this, strictly speaking, this exact steps. So actually, I also work a lot on the CV. And they just contacted me, Alten, a few days later. Actually, it was very quick, and they asked me if I wanted to. I was up to come to Rotterdam. I was actually living in Leiden at the time for basically a 1 day interview, where the first in the morning I would have a 1 hour and a half interview with the HR. In the afternoon, I would talk with a technical manager, a guy who actually has a PhD, so to see, to talk with somebody, let's say, that I could relate to, let's say, somebody successful in the company, I could relate to in some sense. And this guy would also have me give me a test, a programming test. And in my case, it was C++, but they also had other options, I guess. And after that, they would make me an offer, or everything in 1 day. However, after the first interview, I told them that I also had job applications going on. So I asked if we could postpone of a couple of weeks the final part of the interview. because after the second part of the interview, they would make the offer, and they would have like the offer to be answered within 1 week. So they actually have been very forthcoming and say, okay, then let's schedule a second part of interview for, it was I think 3 weeks later. And we kept in contact. And then I showed up I came for the second interview, and I really had really great experience, really great feeling about it. And they also signed me up for a sort of training program for the first 2 months, where I would get a lot of extra training in programming, because I had, let's say, the engine, I just didn't know how to drive in some sense. So they told me, okay, we'll get you on this program for the first 2 months, with also some very fun and unexpected fun project. Creating a bot for Bomberman was really fun, and then have it play against all the other bots made by the other people. It was really entertaining. And after that, by then I would have had enough experience to actually start working on my project. I have to say, I did learn a lot. It was really fun doing these courses and this project. So.
Okay, and so you said that they made a very good impression on you, but like on the first day. But my question would be, what was the reason? Like, was it because of the people you talked to, or because of the offer you got? Like, what was the most appealing thing for you?
Well, I saw that they really had a good. They were really respectful, and they were really appreciating workers, so really caring about their well-being, their work and life balance. They overall, I read a lot of positive things about them, that were actually doing really. They were known for high quality performance. Let's say a high quality job work. So that was also something that is nice to hear, that they are just not they're not hired because they're the cheapest company around, but because they're good at what they do. So that's really something that make you feel good, make you feel proud. Yeah, that's something that could make me feel part of them. So, and in general, very good also. Experience with the HR, with the technical manager. It was really. I thought it was basically the best opportunity for me to get experience in industry experience, and in a company that really values people, values.
Yeah, but by the way, I think, from what you were saying about motivational letters, I think that in general, this practice of asking for motivational letter is quite outdated, and motivational, like answering and writing motivational letters is a bit of a game. It's a bit like ping pong, and the job offer usually is written in some pseudo language where, like, the company doesn't really reveal all their cards, so they don't really say much in detail about what they offer, and they use these keywords to describe what they want, like highly motivated, enthusiastic team player, blah blah, right?
Willing to die for our company.
Yes, and then you have to kind of guess what they really want and write a motivational letter, not to show yourself as you really are, but more like morph into what they want you to be, and use the same keywords that they used in the offer, because they have these algorithms that filter the application, so you have to kind of speak their language. So it's like you try to guess what they meant, and then the recruiter who is reading your motivational letter tries to guess what you really are, not what you're saying you are, but what is underneath. And it's kind of a mutual game, and it's really like bad for both sides, and a lot of wasted time and like miscommunication there. So I think this tendency of basically dropping completely motivational letters and proceeding straight to recruitment at the company office, and just prolonging that part and spending more time with the actual candidate to really test them from a different angles, and talk to them with like presence of multiple representatives of a company. It's probably going to be the trend, because at the end of the day, this is when you can really test whom you're talking to, and not on the basis of the motivational letter. So I think this is going to be more common in the future.
I hope so. The problem is that then you have to pay your HR for 1 hour to interview the person, rather than 20 seconds for them to skim through the motivational letter. So that requires much more resources and investment. So
it's well, you have to spend 1 day at the company then, but in the end, I think this is, I mean, if I was actually employing people for my company, I would do the same. Like, I would rather spend time with them rather than let them write like a essay about themselves first.
But that's only if you care about the people that you're going to work with, and that's it. That's so it depends if you see them as people you want to know, or just workers, or just So in some sense, I actually have to say that motivational letter can be really, really good. I have a friend, also a PhD. She is specialized in capturing and studying birds with especially their calls, and so also capturing a few of them. And she had been applying actually in the Netherlands for a job where she would have had to do basically the same things, but with bats. So similar animals, similar tasks, but completely different. So one might say different field, because in the end one is birds, the other technical are mammals. So it's a bit strange. But in the cover letter, she was just I can do this with birds. I know how to use this equipment. Just give me a book about bats, and I'm ready to go. And she was basically hired as she would have been hired on the spot. Then coronavirus and everything, and they had to stop the procedure. But sometimes you can really, if it's a bit outside of your expertise, or there is opportunity in the motivational letter to really make clear what you can offer, and what they were not expecting from a candidate. But if it's just I want to work because I like not dying of hunger, of starvation under a bridge, then motivational letter is not very informative.
It's true, but it's also that in motivational letters, people who have some skill for self-presentation, and to these negotiation skills to convince someone, they kind of flourish. And people who are really modest and they just want to get the job and start working, and they don't really have that. Not everyone has the skill to really put their thoughts in the text. And also, this is like a specific type of intelligence, I think. And some people have it, and some people don't. And they can be really intelligent, but they still cannot really persuade someone to invite them. Like I see that a lot, because I read a lot of motivational letters while working in the company, like reading people's letters, helping them with improving. And I see that even very intelligent people often have this lack of, you have to use a lot of mirror neurons to really figure out what the other person might feel valuable in the letter, and you have to kind of take a perspective from the recruiter. And sometimes some people who are really smart, they just don't have that. Great that this worked for you, and that you got this job, and apparently you are really happy now. So that's great. And actually, I would like to ask you a little bit about your future. So, this is like a very cliche question, but like I like asking this question. And the question is, so how do you see yourself in the future? Do you have some long-term plan right now, or do you just want to first enjoy the life you have now, and you don't really think about what will come in 5 or 10 years?
So usually I try to take things slowly. So for the moment, I don't have that many plans for the future. So I think I know I will stay in this company at least a few years. For at least that's my opinion for my idea for the moment. So I don't know. A good thing is that they actually don't. In order for you to get higher in the level, they don't require necessarily to get through management. So you can just keep being a software engineer, IT consultant, and keep doing that thing while also getting higher in the company, which is nice. So if somebody doesn't have people skills, doesn't want to develop them, doesn't feel like can ever manage people, is not obliged, let's say. So that's a good opportunity, let's say, if in case I want to, I enjoy the job. But yeah, I don't really know for the moment. So I will see. There are other companies also that I liked, for which I also applied in the past. I'd see if how happy I will be here, and yeah, if I feel
Actually,
safe.
yeah, so recently I read an article from Zachary Ernst, who is a former professor, I think, of philosophy, actually, who went to IT industry and now is a consultant and a data scientist, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but he has some position as a specialist in IT industry. And actually, it was very interesting what he said, because before he switched careers, he had a tenure position. So a lot of people were thinking he got crazy because he left his tenure position to go to industry. But what he said was, well, I left the safety of a position to get the safety of a career, because now, it's, I don't have a tenure position anymore, but I can change and go wherever I want, and I will always have jobs with my skills, so I feel much more safe in a sense. So I think there is a lot of truth to this, because yeah, with your skills and working in a good company right now, you can go anywhere. So that's like, it's a lot of opportunity, and that's I guess gives some sense of safety. Anyways, I hope.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially in the well, in at the moment where if you have any at least IT knowledge, some programming, some data science, they will literally throw job offers at you. Literally throw job offers at you. It's impressive. Obviously, there are also other people. Many PhDs might also not want to be in the IT sector, and it's also very valid. There are many friends just doing normal consultancy, or a few working in banking, or just finance, for example. Yeah, in some sense, can still be quantitative jobs, let's say.
Yeah, actually, it's also that a lot of people who go to consultancy, they don't really take it as a like career, but also but more as a way of training into other possible careers in industry. So it's like for many people, it's also a way of getting a lot of industry experience in a short time after the PhD, to get themselves, to get more opportunities for later. So maybe I'll see what happens to your career in like a year or two.
Well, in my company case, they try to, since they really invest on the workers, on the people, they don't want them to leave. For example, there are many colleagues that have been working for 10, 20 and more years. And especially if then a company for which a consultant has worked on tries to hire the consultant himself or herself, they will have to pay a big fee to Alten. And also, you cannot just also for yourself, if you quit, then for at least 6 months you cannot go work for a company you recently worked for.
Okay,
Because they
interesting.
really they really invest a lot on the knowledge and experience of the workers.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But
Yeah,
there
I
are
mean,
many other companies that, for example, they actually foresee that after a couple of years, the workers are just hired by the client itself. So it's actually a business model somewhere. Basically, just taking them, giving them maybe some classes every once in a while, and eventually, let's say, selling them to the main company.
yeah, Yeah, actually, I heard a lot about this. It's still. I mean, even though the crisis has come, I think the market, at least in this sector, in data science and machine learning, it's still dominated by the employees. So if you're a good specialist, it's still that companies fight for you
Oh yeah.
rather than the other way around. So I think in this space, I think the crisis didn't really reach employees yet. So because the demand was so high that even with the crisis, it's still like good enough to really be wanted on the job market. Yeah, it's not as much true about some other industries. Like in pharma these days, in biotech and in pharma in the Netherlands, there are very severe reductions actually, and most companies, yeah, they kind of like they postpone their development plans. So there are much less positions than used to be, and like on LinkedIn, the amount of applicants per position in the like past few weeks even went up by factor 10 literally. So but that's true about biotech. It's not necessarily true about IT. I think in IT is a bit different. So it's really very domain specific. But like what did I actually want to say? I think I lost I lost the track. Yeah. Well, anyways, good for you. I mean, I think you are really safe now. And oh yeah, we were talking about how Alten treats employees and what is the rotation, and yeah.
Yeah, it's really low actually. So.
It's really low. That's good, actually. That's also something advice I got from people working for consultancy companies, that if you are applying to a company like this, you have to always check the yeah the
Yeah,
statistics.
you have to see what's the company policies. It's kind of due diligence for yourself.
Right.
You
Okay.
want to know a bit about them.
And do you feel that you might have some entrepreneurial spirit and you might also think about your own company one day, or do you think this is
I don't think so. Well, at least for the moment, I still have these crippling doubts about my personal knowledge and skills. So the moment I don't think I will ever see a moment in which I'll be feeling ready to go out on myself, at least for the moment,
right?
or at least for this. I don't know, but I don't really see myself as an entrepreneur.
Okay. So does anyone else have some questions, William? Maybe. Because if not, then we will be slowly wrapping up.
I think I have one.
Sure.
As Italian, do you have the same benefits and the same conditions as the Dutch people in the work?
So I'm as working well. As working possibilities, I am so since I am also a European citizen from the Schengen area, I don't have
Yeah.
troubles as a paperwork or so. I also had the luck that my university for 4 years got paid for a lot of Dutch language classes. So now I'm not really fluent, but I have something like a B1, almost B2, let's say B1.4 knowledge of Dutch language, which I'm not really that confident into speaking it every day, especially at work. But I can more or less understand, read emails, write back. So I would say that at least in my company, there aren't been really like funny jokes about me being Italians, also because there are many international people over there. I received very few, but not many, also kind of stereotypical jokes about me being Italian. So a few about mafia. Another one, actually, a coach at the university, wondering why I wasn't drinking wine for lunch during a day of class. And I was, look, I'm not an alcoholic. So, and this thing, or there was this kind of pretty racist course at the university. Now they shut it off. Called how was it? Effective communication, I believe. which was basically how you, international person, have to learn, have to change in order to be able to come apart, to be able to work together with the Dutch people. And it was something like, yeah, and those Southern European and South American people, you just have to stop chit-chatting and actually do the job. Of my faculty was going around asking what we thought about these mandatory courses from the graduate school, and I was very happy to share my opinion about some of those.
Yeah, sorry to hear.
I mean, I think is if you have a personal bias, I think if you say that everybody that is not in that case was basically just English, Dutch, or German, must improve their mindset to come and be able to work with the Dutch efficiency, and that was very upsetting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, like about Polish, there are also stereotypes, but it's also, I'm always trying to kind of understand those stereotypes, at least, understand where they come from, because, with Polish in the Netherlands, like 90%, of Polish people coming to the Netherlands are a very low qualified workforce that is doing physical work. Like, so if you pick a random Polish person in the street in the Netherlands, it's typically a construction worker or nurse or someone who is really like doing like low key jobs, and only tiny percentage is people who have like high university degree and come here to do research or some other highly qualified jobs. And it's just this is like Bayesian if inference, like Dutch people, they're kind of encode that in the process that 90% of the time you meet someone Polish, there is a chance they might be indeed alcoholic or troubled in some other ways, and they learn that in the process. So I'm trying to understand them also, because because this is how it is. And I myself once upon a time found myself in like a group of Polish people that were just people living in the municipality of Nijmegen. So we all got invited to get vaccinated for free, because there was apparently some action in the hospital to give away vaccines to people from third world countries, right? So I was like, okay, free vaccination. So I went there, and there was like a just gathering of Polish people in Nijmegen, and I some of these people I wouldn't like to find myself in a dark street together with. So I was
regardless of nationality.
Yeah, I can understand the stereotype, and yeah, what can you do? It's just
sure. But I actually have a good Polish friend, and once he was told in his face that he was actually how was it, that he couldn't really complain. No, I think it was as his work. He couldn't really complain because him as a Polish person was doing really well, literally. But you are as a Polish, you're doing really well.
Well, I mean, I don't complain. I just I myself, I don't feel like I was mistreated because I am Polish in any way.
No, but they were just basically telling that you are qualified, and you are well treated for being a Polish. You are well educated for being a Polish.
Oh, okay.
That was the meaning.
So that's that way of patronizing talk.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I would say patronizing is quite.
Well, I didn't happen to me, but I can imagine. Yeah.
Happy that it didn't.
Well, I mean, like, to be honest, like Dutch people also have a lot of like negative stereotypes about Dutch people, right?
That's true.
They also talk about Dutch people, like she talk about Dutch people, that Dutch people are rude, too direct, short-handed, like they also, so it's also that they are hard on themselves too.
There is also the difference between people from Randstad, the west, and the people from the fields, the east, where things are much slower and they don't have the 2 months appointment on the agenda and things like that. So
yeah. I live in the village, so I live in the east. I can imagine. Like, we are the most hippie city in the Netherlands. So yeah, it's very different here from the Randstad. Okay, so great. So if there are no more questions, so I wish you the very best, Leonardo. Thank you so much for your insights. It was very interesting. And on that note, I think we will wrap up here. So if there are any further questions for Leonardo, then you can find him on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. And
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Have a nice